This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Increasing evidence suggests that being active can reduce a person's risk of dementia. Dementia is the name for the effects of Alzheimer's disease, stroke, and other brain disorders. People may be considered to have dementia if they lose abilities in two or more areas, such as memory and language skills. Other signs of dementia include a loss of ability to think clearly or control emotions. The World Health Organization says about 35 million people worldwide are living with dementia. Most studies of exercise and dementia depend on self-reporting, asking people to report their levels of physical activity. Laura Middleton is a researcher at the Sunnybrook Research Institute and the University of Waterloo in Canada. She says there are problems with self-reporting. It does a very good job of capturing jogging or biking or tennis, but does a relatively poor job of capturing low-intensity activity like walking or daily chores, which may also be important to the risk of cognitive impairment. So Professor Middleton led a team in a new study to measure activity levels scientifically. The study lasted 5 years. Almost 200 people took part. Their average age was 75. The people drank small amounts of what scientists call doubly labeled water. It contains forms of hydrogen and oxygen that can mark or label these elements within body water. This way, scientists can measure energy use through urine tests. The research showed that the greater the level of activity, the greater the reduction in the risk of memory loss and other cognitive impairment. The study is published in the Archives of Internal Medicine. In a second study, French researchers reported on exercise and dementia in women with heart risks like obesity or diabetes. Marie-Noëlle Vercambre of the Foundation for Public Health in Paris led the study. The findings suggest that even a half-hour walk at a quick speed every day could lower the risk of cognitive impairment. Dr. Eric Larson of the Group Health Research Institute in Seattle, Washington, wrote a commentary about the studies. It's not obvious to people that exercise would make your brain healthier, he says, but the latest findings add to the evidence that it does. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. For more health news and to learn English, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Strong writing is one of the most important skills for any college student. Many non-native English speakers have no idea what American professors expect from a college paper. Such a paper can often be 20 pages long or more. Even native English-speaking students struggle with how to succeed when writing about complex or difficult issues. Deborah DeSasso is the Writing Resource Coordinator at the University of the District of Columbia. She helps students reach the level of writing that college professors expect. DeSasso says college writing is very different from what many students experience earlier in their education. A credible source provides verifiable information from experts. This may include details from books, newspapers, interviews, or studies. Students are often unprepared for the amount of research they have to do for a college paper. In a traditional paper, the first paragraph often contains the thesis statement. This is a one-sentence summary of the paper's main argument. The first paragraph of a college paper, or any paper, is usually the most difficult to write. The first paragraph is also the most important because it will guide the structure and show the voice of the entire paper. But not every type of writing is the same. DeSasso says that the best idea for anyone who wants to improve his or her writing is to read. Reading examples of the kind of paper your professor expects you to write can be the biggest help. For VOA Learning English, I'm Dan Friedel.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. There's new medical evidence for the expression, better late than never. Researchers have found that smokers reduce their risk of dying from tobacco even if they stop smoking after the age of 60. Smoking is a known risk for many diseases, including many forms of cancer, as well as heart disease. But most studies on the health effects of smoking involve middle-aged people. The latest analysis by German researchers examined the findings of 17 studies. These were carried out in the United States, China, Australia, Japan, England, Spain, and France. Smokers 60 and older had an 83% increased risk of dying from all causes compared to people who had never smoked. Smokers also had a 34% higher risk of death compared to former smokers. T.H. Lam is a professor in the School of Public Health at the University of Hong Kong. He says people who continue to smoke as seniors have at least a 50% chance of dying from their smoking habit. And if they stop smoking, then they can reduce about 1/4 of their excess risk, he says. What about smokers who start at a young age and stop when they are in their 30s? Dr. Lam says they can reduce their risk of dying from a smoking-related illness to almost the same level as someone who never smoked. Even people who never smoke can still die from breathing other people's secondhand smoke. An article on smoking among older individuals with a commentary by T.H. Lam appeared in the archives of Internal Medicine. In other news, the World Health Organization now says diesel fuel exhaust causes cancer. Since 1988, the WHO had rated exhaust from diesel engines as probably carcinogenic to humans. Now, it compares the risk to that of secondhand cigarette smoke. The announcement came after international experts spent a week reviewing new research findings. Those included a long-term study of more than 12,000 miners who were heavily exposed to diesel exhaust. The diesel industry pointed out that the mining study lacked exact data on exposure levels during its early years. Also, diesel engine makers point to their new designs that produce far less emissions than older truck and bus engines. The WHO says stronger standards are needed to limit diesel emissions into the air. The United States Environmental Protection Agency continues to rate diesel as only a likely cause of cancer. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Persutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. A new phone app senses vibrations and alerts people to earthquakes. The phone app recognizes sudden shaking of the Earth's surface through sensors in smartphones. The new app is called My Shake. It is the work of 4 researchers at the University of California, Berkeley. They said they created a worldwide warning system that would inform people and give them time to prepare for earthquakes. Other earthquake apps include QuakeFeed, Quakes, and Earthquake. They show where earthquakes have happened, their strength, and any aftershocks. The apps use information from the U.S. Geological Survey. The My Shake app is available only for Android phones. Smartphones are equipped with accelerometers. These instruments measure movement. They also can measure the shaking of a machine, building, or other structure. Activity trackers and apps that count steps or exercise activities use accelerometers. Global Positioning System, also called GPS, apps also use them. My Shake uses phone accelerometers to measure seismic activity. It has been programmed to know the difference between normal activity and earthquake movements. The smartphone then sends seismic information to the app developers. The software developers say their app is correct 93% of the time. Several notifications from one area could mean that an earthquake may be taking place or will take place soon. The app also shows ways to stay safer during an earthquake. The developers say the app will improve as more people use it. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball.
This is the VOA Special English Development Report. The earliest process of making paper was done almost 5,000 years ago in Egypt and the Nile Valley. In those days, paper was made from strips of the papyrus plant. Modern paper making began in China about 2,000 years ago. This process produced paper from cloth, straw, wood, or the bark of trees. The raw materials are struck over and over until they become loose. Then they are mixed with water. After the water has been removed, the flat, thin form remaining is permitted to dry. This becomes a sheet of paper. Large machines started to be used for making paper near the end of the 16th century. Today, paper making is a big business. But it is still possible to make paper by hand, since the steps are the same as using big machines. You should choose paper with small amounts of printing. Old envelopes are good for this reason. Colored paper can also be used, as well as small amounts of newspaper. Small pieces of rags or cloth can be added. These should be cut into pieces about 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Everything is placed in a container, covered with water, and brought to a boil. It is mixed for about 2 hours with some common chemicals and then allowed to cool. Then it is left until most of the water dries up. The substance left, called pulp, can be stored until you are ready to make paper. When you are ready, the pulp is mixed with water again. Then the pulp is poured into a mold. The mold is made of small squares of wire that hold the shape and thickness of the paper. To help dry the paper, the mold lets the water flow through the small wire squares. After several more drying steps, the paper is carefully lifted back from the mold. It is now strong enough to be touched. The paper is smoothed and pressed to remove trapped air. You can use a common electric iron used for pressing clothes. There are many other technologies for people making paper using small machines. More information about making homemade paper can be found on the internet. You can also order information on paper making through the website enterpriseworks.org. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. Transcripts, MP3s, and podcasts of our reports are at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and iTunes at VOA Learning English.
For VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Scientists say they have found evidence of a giant planet in the solar system. It is very far away from Earth. The possible new planet, called Planet 9, is about 10 times the size of Earth. If scientists are right, this would be the 9th planet in our solar system. Pluto had been considered the 9th planet until 2006, when it was renamed a dwarf planet. Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown made the Planet 9 discovery. The scientists are with the California Institute of Technology, or Caltech. They used mathematical modeling and computer programs to find the planet. Batygin and Brown published their findings in the Astronomical Journal. They said Planet 9 travels a strange orbit in the solar system. They said it would take the planet 10,000 to 20,000 years to make one full orbit around the sun. Confirmation of a ninth planet would be very big news. Mike Brown said that there have only been 2 true planets discovered since ancient times, and this would be a third. The researchers did not get a picture of Planet 9 yet, but they said they are using the biggest and best telescopes on Earth to find it. They want to discover more about Planet 9's orbit and its impact on the outer part of our solar system. Robert Massey is with the Royal Astronomical Society in London. He told the news agency, AFP, that planets have been predicted before and then were not found. But he said the work of these researchers is definitely worth following up, even though at the moment it is still just a prediction. For VOA Learning English, I'm Anna Mateo.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. China will not ease government control over the stock market, said a new top securities official. Those controls include how stocks are offered for public sale. Government control over first-time stock offerings, known as initial public offerings or IPOs, will continue. Government-supported trading will also continue. Liu Shiyu is the new chairman of the China Securities Regulatory Commission, or CSRC. The CSRC is the government agency that supervises China's stock markets. Liu says that reforms in the IPO system will not take place anytime soon, and that supporting the reforms will require a process and time. Liu also says government-run organizations which support the market during price drops will continue to operate. China is open about its direct intervention in the market to support stock prices. The government-run China Securities Finance Corporation Limited has played a major part in supporting the stock market. This was especially true after stock prices on China's major exchanges sharply dropped in June of last year. The fund reportedly has invested in almost 600 publicly traded companies. Johnny Fang is a stock expert with Shanghai-based Ziben Advisors. He says there has been improvement in the way IPOs have been approved in recent months. But he says that Liu Shiyu still considers market stability very important. For VOA Learning English, I'm Lucia Malanig.
This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Researchers estimate that more than 2 billion people a year get diseases spread by animals. More than 2 million of them die. Delia Grace is a veterinary epidemiologist, an expert in the spread of diseases involving animals. She is also a food safety expert. She works at the International Livestock Research Institute in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. She says diseases transmitted between animals and people are called zoonoses. She says more than 60% of human diseases come from other vertebrate animals. Some of these diseases are common. Others are extremely rare. Delia Grace says there are many different infection pathways for a person. Probably the most common one is for people to get sick from food. Other transmission pathways include direct contact with animals. And some diseases can be transmitted through water or through the air. Delia Grace says diseases like avian influenza or mad cow disease have killed very few people, but she says they are of interest because some of them could kill a lot of people. They include the Spanish flu after the First World War and HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. Delia Grace is the lead author of a new report called Mapping of Poverty and Likely Zoonoses Hotspots. She points out that poverty and disease are closely linked, so preventing the transmission of animal diseases could help reduce poverty. The report for Britain's Department of International Development lists places where the diseases are most common. The report lists places where a disease has existed for a long time, a so-called endemic zoonosis, as well as places with new threats. Delia Grace says things could get worse in the coming years as meat production increases to feed a growing world population. High production farms often raise animals close together. Crowding can allow diseases to spread quickly. Another concern is the use of antibiotics in food animals, not only to prevent and treat diseases, but to increase growth. The report says an incentive-based system to encourage safer methods of raising animals could be more effective than increasing food inspections. For example, some farmers could receive training and other help that would lead to official approval of their products. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.